Some of you may be wondering how we can answer this question, write an equation of a line passing through point P that is perpendicular to the given line manually without using software like GeoGebra or Desmos graphing calculator. So here's the point and here's the equation that we're given. Again, the line that we're given, the given line is this. Okay, it's this guy right here. It's y equals negative 3x plus 13. Y equals negative 3x plus 13 is the equation of a line, and we will refer to it as the given line in this problem. What we want is we want to write an equation of a line. So we want to write something like this, an equation of a line, but not this one. So we'd like to write an equation of a line that goes through this line, that goes through this point and is perpendicular to this line. Now, the secret that you need to know is, it all has to do with slope. The slope of two parallel lines is the same. The slope of two perpendicular lines is the opposite reciprocal. Okay, so what happens is, again, opposite reciprocal. Opposite means opposite sign, and reciprocal means flip it over. So in this case, what we're looking for is we want to write the equation of a line that goes through the point 6, 10, and we'd like to know what the slope is. Now, what we'll do is we'll use the given line to determine what the slope is for the given line, and then we'll figure out the slope for the perpendicular line. So for the line that is perpendicular, and by the way, the symbol for perpendicular looks like this. It's like an upside down T. It looks like a 90-degree angle. Okay, and in this case, the slope of the given line is negative 3. So by the way, I'd like to point out that negative 3 is it is really negative 3 over 1. So let me write that in so that we have that. Negative 3 is really negative 3 over 1. It's rise over run, remember? And so what we'd like to do is we'd like to flip that guy over and take the opposite sign. So we're going to say the slope of the line we need is going to be 1 over 3. And the sign will be positive because this sign is negative. So what we're looking for is the opposite reciprocal. Now, I want to make something very clear. The reciprocal of a number does not change the sign. The reciprocal of negative 3 over 1 is negative 1 over 3. Okay? This is not the reciprocal of negative 3 over 1. This is the opposite reciprocal of negative 3 over 1. Okay, anyways, hopefully you're with me on that. Anyways, now I have the appropriate slope for the line that is perpendicular to the given line. And now I have to take this slope and this point and figure out how to write an equation of a new line, the one that's perpendicular to this one. So let's do it. We're going to use this formula called point slope. And the point slope form of the linear equation looks like this. y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And if you're curious where that equation came from, it came from the equation for slope. The equation for slope just looks something like this. And if we just rearrange this equation, we get something that looks like this, except you'll notice the 2's disappear. Okay. Now, let me go ahead and get rid of that because we're not going to use this right now. We already know the slope in this case. Let's see what we can do. For one thing, in the line, when we go to get our new equation of a line, it's going to have a y in it and it's going to have an x in it. So that's why the 2's went away, because we're not going to put a number in place of this y or this x. But see this x1 and this y1? We're going to use this point for that x1 and that y1. And something that I'd like to do, and I'd like you to do, is we're going to label the x x1 and we'll label the y y1. And when we do that, it'll make it a little bit easier to fill in over here. We already know what m is. So let's go ahead and put it all together. And let's see here. I'm going to say y minus y1 is 10 is equal to m, which is 1/3, and then times x, and the x and the y stay x and y because we need them in y equals mx plus b, and then minus x1. So we'll do minus 6. And then we'll rearrange everything in order to get y equals mx plus b. And I have to admit to you, this is one of the trickier parts. Getting this far, you'll get most points. This is what you got to do. I'd love to see you be able to do the algebra and get this right. So the next step is we'll distribute the 1/3. So we get y minus 10 equals 1/3 x. That part is easy. 1/3 times minus 6 is going to be a little trickier for some of you folks. But it turns out that's going to be minus 2. And for those of you who are wondering, how did he perform that magic? I did 1/3 times negative 6 over 1. And honestly, that negative sign is just going to confuse you and me. So I'm just going to put it off to the side for a minute. I'm just going to say 1/3 times 6 over 1, okay? And that'll get me 1 times 6 is 6, over 3 times 1 is 3, and that's where the 2 comes from. And then I'd like to remind you, if I multiply a positive number like this 1/3 times a negative number like this negative 6, I'm going to get a negative number. So in the end, my result should be a negative 2. So 1/3 times negative 6 is just minus 2, or plus a negative 2. And then let's let's finish it off. We'll add 10 to both sides, and we get y equals 1/3 x. 10 plus negative 2 is plus 8. And for those of you who saw the previous video with GeoGebra, you may recall that that's the equation that we ended up getting. This is the equation of a line that is perpendicular to this line and goes through point P, which is this point, okay? We were asked to write an equation of a line that passes through point P and is perpendicular to the given line, and that's what this is. Now, for those of you that still aren't totally putting it all together, I recommend go back and take another look at the video with GeoGebra where I show you what the concept is, and maybe with that visual you'll get a better idea of what's going on. All right. Good luck, people.